guys, I'm filming from my car and I'm feeling a little bit like a genius, and I'm going to show you why. I'm going to use my phone as a mirror. I don't even know if you can see that, but I've got like a phone holder thing and I've somehow attached my camera to it and tied it up with my headphones. Just call me MacGyver. So I asked on Instagram and Facebook for some questions. I wanted to do a little Q&A, and I thought, again, using this time that I'm in the car to film and be productive, here we are. Oh, I'm a poet and I don't know. Also, I have some questions, I'm going to go through those in a second, but also I'm thinking of doing something that I'm going to call Total Request Tuesday. I did this years ago, and I don't know if it's something that other people have done, and it's just been like, you know, I've just missed it. Someone reminded me of one of the videos that I filmed, a really terrible video. I went back to it, looked at the comments, and a lot of the stuff that I used to do was like a direct result of a request. So I like that idea. If you would be into that, let me know. Maybe leave me some requests below and we can get started on that next week. Okay, so let's get into the questions. Linny Mouse asks, what's your favourite all-round beauty brand and your favourite luxury brand? Tricky. I would probably say, and I think I've said this before, if I had to pick one, do you know what? I think I've said Revlon in the past, and I probably would say Maybelline. I think that I could get along with their foundations. I really like their mascaras, which is something that I find tricky with a lot of brands. A lot of stuff from Maybelline I could probably work with. Favourite luxury brand is tough because there's no one brand that I would go to thinking, you know, I could buy everything from there. I would probably have to say Estee Lauder because I haven't really tried any real duds from them. Not that I've tried a tremendous amount. There are other brands, I mean, Urban Decay, I suppose, but that's kind of more mid-range. If we're calling Urban Decay high-end, then I'll say Urban Decay. Someone's requested a Glossier video. That is definitely coming up. I've done 2 orders. I haven't even received the first one yet, and I have placed 2 orders. What the what? If you could change one thing about YouTube, what would it be? If I could change one thing, it would be that we didn't become so commercial. Not that you couldn't get paid, not that we couldn't do sponsored videos or ads or whatever, but everything's so like highly polished and amazing production value now that it makes people feel kind of intimidated, not only to kind of consider starting YouTube, but I would imagine for the viewer it's a little bit different now than it used to be. It used to be just, it could be anyone that was talking to you, and you just had to have a serious love of what you were talking about, a real passion to be able to do it. And now it feels like you need all this equipment and you need to be a professional, and that would be the one thing that I wish hadn't changed about YouTube, because the whole point of YouTube for me was that anyone could do it, and now it doesn't feel that way. And what's your favourite everyday perfume? At the moment I've been wearing Givenchy Play Intense, the purple one. I love that. Avia asks, do you genuinely feel like face masks actually work? Now I think she's asking this because the picture that I used was me in a face mask. Some of them do, definitely. Some of them, she said, apart from the clay mask ones, she doesn't feel like they do anything for their skin. I think that it really depends on the mask that you're using. I've used so many sheet masks and felt like they didn't do anything at all. I at very least want to feel a difference in my skin, even if it's not visible. I want to feel really fresh when I take it off, or I want to feel a difference. And I think the ones that I like the feeling of are those biocellulose kind of jelly kind of masks. So Avia, if you haven't tried one of those, try one of those. I definitely highly recommend the moisture one from, can't remember what it's called, but from Soap and Glory. What's your favourite mascara, looks and budget? Right now, I'm really into the Lancome Big Monsieur, I think it's called. Oh no, Monsieur Big. Really, really like that. Previous to that, I would have said there were no, sorry, I know the camera's wobbling constantly. Apologies, I'm sure it's really annoying. Previous to that, I wouldn't have said, I'm trying to steer a little still. I wouldn't have said that I had a favourite mascara, to be honest, from the high-end range. But that definitely would be it. And from lower ones, probably would still have to say Lash Sensational from Maybelline, but there are tons that I like now. These days, it's easy to find a mascara. Positives and negatives of moving into a new build. Right, okay, I have so many right now because it's been driving me crazy recently. The big thing is, the newer the estate, I would imagine this is again different depending on where you're living. There are going to be some real expensive new estates where the plots of land are huge and stuff, especially in our position in our estate. It feels really penned in, and it's something my dad spoke a lot about when we were looking for a house, that he didn't want to be overlooked and stuff. And the overlooked thing didn't bother me because I don't spend a lot of time in the garden. But we do feel like there's people all around us. It's on the front side of the house, it's not like that, but round the back, it's very closed in. That's the big thing with a new build, is they tend to be kind of really shoved in together, and the parking situation is dire. Other than that, I wouldn't say it's too terrible. Within the house itself, it's great. Obviously, we're still within our 12-month period of being able to tell them to come and fix things, so that's good. There's not really been any like major issues, but as she mentioned in her question, the internet is terrible. It doesn't make any sense. Around our estate, the internet is fine. Even like, I can't get internet on my phone anywhere near our estate. It's terrible. And we can't get like regular Sky, or we can get it, but it's very poor. So we've been using something called Pine Media, or a company called Pine Media, who are also pulling out of our estate because they couldn't get the service that they wanted to be able to provide. So don't really know what's going to happen. But they were like a cableless internet provider, so they were doing something kind of wirelessly. It's all really terrible, and especially because I upload a lot. It takes me hours and hours and hours to upload a video. It's terrible. Mammalful Zoe asks, what is your favourite liquid lipstick and shade? I'm actually trying a new one today. That video will be up next week. I'm also trying a foundation, which is why I'm a bit shiny, because I can't touch it up. Favourite liquid lipstick and shade? I think there is one. Let me just see if I've got it in my bag right now. I might have it, I might have it, I might have it. No, I can't see it anywhere. Right. I do. This is of the moment, you know, for right now, it's my favourite. Maybelline Superstay Matte Ink in Lover. There's also that one that I really like from Colourpop called Alyssa. But for right now, for like a deep kind of wine colour, I'm really into that one. Helen asks, what advice would you give to your 25-year-old self? There's people walking past and they think I'm crazy. And this is really obvious this time because I've like clearly set up a whole thing. 25-year-old self. Well, people ask this all the time, but because I had Ella when I was 19, I would give advice to my teenage self, or to like my 19-year-old self. But by the mid-20s, I was kind of like in it. I'd had an entire life by the time I'd got to 25. I've always said 35 is like my year. That's the year that I'm working towards, and the year when I feel like everything's going to fall into place and I'm going to have like the best year ever. I don't know why, ever since I was like, probably since I had Ella and I realised I wasn't going to have my teenage years. Do you know what? I've never put that together, but I think it's because Ella will be 16. I probably decided 35 was going to be my year when I had Ella when I was 19, and I thought, by the time I'm 35, Ella will be 16 and I'll be able to have like a bit of freedom. And I'd not really thought about that. It's been so long that I've been saying 35 will be my year, I kind of forgot of like the logic behind it, but that's probably it. 25-year-old self, just keep swimming, just keep going. You know, things change all the time. If ever you've got kind of a major issue, just keep at it and it will get better. I know that everyone always says that when it's like advice to previous selves, but what else would you want someone to say to you? You know, like if you had a 25-year-old friend who was having a problem, that would be the main thing. Whenever I talk to younger people who tell me the problems that they're having, I'm like, do you know what? In 5-10 years, you're not even going to care about this. You won't even believe this was an issue. That's always the thing. Leah asks, what other sci-fi besides Star Wars do you like? Highly recommend reimagined Battlestar Galactica. I always really liked the, was it called Enterprise? You know the one, it was like a series, a more recent series, Star Trek Next Generation? They were all on a ship all the time, and there were like Klingon people that lived there and stuff. I quite enjoyed that. That used to be on BBC Two, and I used to watch that when I was a kid. What advice would you give someone about to be a first-time mum? Probably, again, this is something that everybody says, but everyone's going to have advice, and listen to the advice, but don't let anyone tell you that they know more than you do. Especially when you've had the baby. People will be forever telling you, do it like this, do it like that, and no one has the same child as you. They don't know. They can give you advice and you can listen to it, but don't let them be pushy about it. I did not do a very good job getting Ella sleep trained when she was little. I rocked her to sleep till she was too large to rock to sleep anymore. We had some major sleeping issues with Ella. The thing is, I don't know whether we would have had those issues anyway. She could just have been a bad sleeper, and you don't know what knock-on effects things have. You know, sometimes you've just got a good kid, and it seems like the parent's like, oh my god, amazing, genius parent, but the kid is just good. Manny, for example, I know he's not a child, but Manny, for example, was a really easy puppy. I didn't really have to toilet train him. He kind of toilet trained himself. So I couldn't give anyone any advice on how to toilet train a puppy because I didn't really have to do it. So I would not be out there like, well, you should do it like this. Do you know what I mean? Some parents have just had a really easy ride, and then they try and give you advice, and it makes you feel like you're doing everything wrong, but they've just had a completely different experience than you have. Lindsay says, how do you manage your job, family, and YouTube? Do you ever regret starting YouTube? I never regret starting YouTube because it's opened so many doors and I've met so many people. And I could stop whenever I wanted. I sound like an addict. I can stop whenever I want. Probably can't. No, I never ever have regretted starting YouTube, but it is something that once you do start doing it, it's very difficult to give it up, and I will never have a day off. Even if I wasn't actively working, I would still be on social media in some way, shape or form, and I will never have a day off now, forever. That's the only thing with it. Managing a family and YouTube. People always say this. A job, I only work 2 days a week. I did used to work full time and still do it, and I didn't have much of a life outside of it. But family, I don't do that. Lee does that too. I think that is such a common misconception that because a woman has children and, you know, a family, that everything is kind of her responsibility, and so people are like, I don't know how she does it. I don't do it all. Lee does a lot, and that's how I manage to kind of juggle everything, because he's very supportive. And that's probably the nicest thing I'll ever say about him. Miss Victoria said, how have you found buying and sharing a house with your parents now you've been there for a while? That is a question that Julie asked me on Facebook, how you're all finding living together. So I would say at this point we've kind of found our groove. I'm still not prepared to do a full video about it because I think we've not been doing this for very long. You know, anything could fall apart at any moment. You have to be realistic about these things. It's difficult. The biggest challenge that I found when we first moved in together was how to communicate kind of issues that you had. Because Lee and I could like bicker, mum and dad can bicker, we can tell the kids off, you can deal with your own individual kind of close family in those ways, but it's difficult to communicate with family that you're then living with. So we kind of had to find a way around dealing with problems that we might have, or issues that we had with the living situation quite early on, and that was a difficulty, but I think we're there now. Another thing was we expected to have more space for mum and dad, so we always intended on adding a conservatory or extension of some kind, and when it all came to it, we didn't have the room in the budget to put that on straight away, and so that was another challenge because they've had to have kind of what is the dining area as their living room. So we're hoping beginning of next year we're going to put on a conservatory, and that will be their separate lounge, and it just make everything easier. Weirdly, the issues that I thought we would have, we haven't really had. I don't really care that they're upstairs at night time. I mean, mum goes to bed like really, really early, and dad stays up most of the night. That's just their sleeping patterns. But that was something I thought would be a problem, and it's not. We've got our own separate bathrooms and stuff. That's not an issue. We've got our own separate living room. There are so many things that you would think would be a problem that aren't. And then things that I hadn't thought of that have been like, oh, that's a bit annoying. Like, I can't go into the kitchen and make a cup of tea at night time without really disturbing them watching TV. But that's because of the whole living where they shouldn't be living. Whereas we're gonna sort that out in the next year. But it's been great for childcare. Obviously, we're all saving money on bills. It's not something that I would say is really, really easy, but it's not been maybe as difficult as people would think it was. Sharon asks, we're getting to the last two because we're running out of time. Sharon asks, would love to know what Milo and Ella think about your YouTube job. I wonder if Ella thinks it's pretty cool, or is a case of, oh God, mum's got her camera out again. Also, do you worry about social media affecting them growing up? Okay, those are great questions. So Milo still doesn't really understand it. He watches people on YouTube, and then when I tell him I'm a YouTuber, he's like, what? Like, it's a genuine shock. He's made videos, he knows he's on YouTube, but he doesn't really get it. So he thinks it's really cool. I think Ella thinks it's cool too. She definitely is now getting into the fact that I'm receiving makeup, and that she can then go through this makeup when I've used it. That's a big thing for her. And so far, I don't think it's caused her any embarrassment. She's not embarrassed by it. She's told some friends. Something that I was really worried about, because she started secondary school in September, was whether or not it was going to be something that people would be annoying her about, like teasing her or anything like that. And so far it seems to be that that's not the case. So that was my main concern. And that's why I stopped putting her in videos for a really long time, because I thought she was getting to an age where her friends would be on the internet and they could find those videos and it could just be embarrassing. People think I'm crazy. So yeah, I think it's kind of a cool thing, but I don't know. I'll have to find out, you know, at some point when we'll have to go to like a psychologist, then we'll find out it was all terrible for her. I don't know how I would have dealt with growing up with social media, because I was bullied at school. It was horrible. And if there'd been the cyber element of that, that would have just been something I don't know how I would have dealt with it. And so I'm very kind of cautious. Ella especially is super laid back and chilled with stuff like that. If someone was mean to her, I think she would just not even care. She's like the best kid. Because I don't really feel like I have to worry about her too much. She's not anywhere near as sensitive as I am now, let alone how I was then. She's like really strong. Milo, I don't know. We'll see how he's going to be. But Ella has given me no cause for concern, which is just about the best thing for a parent, that she's just made it really easy for me to not worry about her, especially going to secondary school. And the last one is from Erin. What's on the top of your next Netflix or Hulu watch list? I don't have Hulu. Can we get Hulu in the UK? Someone told me that Will and Grace is on Hulu. I think I'd have to mess around with all that DNS settings, and that scares me now, because I couldn't get on Netflix for the longest time after we did that. And then Netflix like kicked everyone off that was using a DNS thing. So we could watch US Netflix. This was a while ago now. But I would love to be able to watch Will and Grace, and we don't have any provider here in the UK. And I'm not prepared to download it like from dodgy internet sources, because our internet is terrible as it is. So streaming something would just be pointless. What are you most looking for? Oh, I didn't answer your question. Top of my Netflix list at the moment is I'm watching the Lady Gaga documentary. Started watching it last night. I've started watching Jane the Virgin. What else? And we've just finished, well, we're currently watching it because it's week by week now, but The Good Place on Netflix is fantastic too. What are you most looking forward to on the girls' trip, which is the one I'm going to New York with Shell next month? Views. Always, whenever I go to New York, I'm like, yes, this is what I'm the most excited about. It's just seeing New York. I love it so much. Whenever we go to Las Vegas, I'm excited, but I'm never like this. I have the warm and fuzzies for New York. I'm so excited about it. I could happily just sit somewhere in New York and I would just be so happy. I love it so much. Plus we'll just be able to take pictures of each other doing all bloggery stuff, and we will have infinite amounts of patience. Who are you currently loving watching on YouTube? Top 3 would be Emily Noel, Tati I've started watching recently, and I've started watching Ingrid Nilsson, Miss Glamorazzi again after a really long time. What will the colour scheme of this year's tree be? Well, Erin, I'm glad you asked, because I've just written a blog post about this. I want a flocked tree this year, but I don't know if it's like super, super tacky to have a flocked tree. You know, like kind of fake snow. I feel like for the longest time in England, that's been a really tacky thing. And in America, it's been really like almost chic to have a flocked tree. And so I really would love a flocked tree. How many times can you say flocked tree? But I don't know if it's just too much. You tell me, but definitely kind of like silvers and golds and just like white Christmas. So why not add a flocked element? I don't know what it is. I think they always look so full and fluffy and beautiful. But what I might end up doing is getting like a garland, you know, like a tree coloured garland to just fill out the tree we've got. Because every year I wish it was kind of a fuller looking, more real looking tree. So yeah, that's it. Perfectly timed to get out and go and get Milo now. I feel great about using this time productively. I hope you've enjoyed this. And don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. Other videos are not like this, but this is a little insight into me if you don't know me and if this is the first video you're watching. And if you like me, why would you? Then go ahead and subscribe. And if you haven't checked out my other videos, please do, because I have been uploading so many recently. Also, the angle of this video has been really weird, I know, because it can only do so much with this thing. But it's worked, I think, right? Apart from the constant wiggling around like this. Okay, I will see you guys next time. If you thought it was awkward with people walking past while I was talking, can you imagine how awkward it was posing for the thumbnail?